We are now live. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Hercules, Hercules. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Maurice Calls Ruffin Sitting in Silence. As you know, that this Sitting in Silence is always an open format type of program where it's a newsletter, it's a podcast, sometimes it's a video podcast. But today, for the very first time, we are doing a live feed. So if you're looking right now, you probably got a notification about this on your Substack app or you got an email. So if you're peeking in and you're really excited, great. If you're not so excited, maybe give us like an extra 30 seconds to a minute to get our hats on, so to speak. Um, but I'm so excited to be doing this because today I'm here with a very good friend of mine, the great Genevieve Rheams, who is somebody I've known for some years now. And we are here in part to celebrate Genevieve's new book, We Will Plant Birds of Paradise. So everybody out there in the world that's here now, but also to people seeing this in the future from the recording, let's send happy thoughts towards Genevieve. Hey Genevieve, how you doing, Genevieve?
I'm doing great, Maurice. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Excited to have you as the first live guest here on this show. Um, hopefully we won't like break any FCC rules, but I didn't say that out loud. Uh, so apparently you had some exciting news. You had a milestone yesterday. Is that right?
I did. I had two milestones. So I yesterday I turned 50 years of age. And I also the book that's sitting behind me right now, We Will Plant Birds of Paradise, it just so happened to come out on the same day.
You
So
said it had to come out on the same day?
it came out on the same exact day.
Like, was
Yeah.
that your plan?
No, not exactly. Although, like, so my publisher, Rattling Good Yarns Press, is my publisher. And when the editor told me that it would be coming out in late September, I said, "Is there any chance it could be released on September 23rd, so that we could share a birthday?" And he said, "Yeah, I think I can make that work." So, partly by design.
Well, I love that, and I think it worked out in part because usually in the book publishing industry, books come out on Tuesdays, so it was a Tuesday, right?
Oh, that makes sense. Yes.
Yep.
It was just meant to be. It was also, I must say, my mom often talks about how she was in labor with me for 23 hours. I was in labor with this thing for like 7 years. So, longest gestation period ever.
I think you got your mother beat. Um, my first book, We Cast the Shadow, it also came out on a birthday, but not my birthday. It came out on my mother's birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it was not planned. I think we even changed the date once or twice, and it just happened to fall on January 29th, back to 2019. Which, by the way, is how we met each other. I mean,
Yeah.
back in that year. Um,
Your book launch was the most fun I've ever had at a book launch.
oh my goodness, thank you.
It was an inspiration. I was like, I want my book launch to be as rock and roll as this one, because it was at the Ace Hotel, and it was like everybody was so excited and pumped, and the vibe was just it 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 was like, I know this is cliche, but it really was electric. Like, it felt like it was alive, and you did your reading, and it was just amazing.
Thank you for reminding me. I feel like I was just floating that whole night, so I barely remember what
Oh,
happened.
yeah. I get that. I kind of felt that way last night. I had my book launch at Loyola University, where I work. The tutoring center and the library were gracious enough to let me use their space, and it was so much fun. But I do kind of feel like, almost kind of how you feel at your wedding, like just a little like, this is really exciting. This is really happening. This is really big. I am so happy to see everyone I love here, and even people I don't know. And I also sure what I just said or how much time has gone by.
Now, the book is sitting behind you, and I know you.
Mm.
I know that you went to school for writing at my same alma mater, UNO.
Mhm.
And so I know that that book is not AI generated. In other words, you put a lot of effort into it over a long period of time. So I know that some of the people who are watching us right now, who'll be watching the recording in the future, there are people who are aspiring to, cross that Rubicon from
Mm.
unpublished author to published author. Can you talk about, um, well, let me back up for a second.
Okay.
Tell people who are watching what the book is about.
So the book is about the cover could probably give you a little bit of a hint that it's about part of it is just about two ladies in love. But it is a queer family rom-com. So it is told from three different perspectives because the main perspective, mainly, it's told from the point of view of a woman named Jess who's in her mid 30s. She's going through a divorce. She's just come out really to herself. In the beginning of the book, she hasn't told anyone that she's gay. She's got two little kids, and um, it is also told from the point of view as the book goes on from her 10-year-old son named Kevin, and the way that he is adjusting to this change in his mother's life and his life. And it's also told from the point of view of Jess's Aunt Luann, who has been a lifelong lesbian. So it's kind of how basically it's about this huge change in their lives and how when a person comes out, usually, especially if it's a little bit later in life, um, the people that you love uh, have to take that step with you. And so I thought it was really important to also get those other points of view in the family who are walking with her, but also like taking a little step forward, taking a little step back, taking a little step forward, taking a little step back, especially our poor 10-year-old. So that's basically what the book is about.
What's amazing about that is that, um, like, clearly it's a heartfelt subject for you, but also I'm not sure I've seen that many books like that. I mean, I've watched a lot of films that were queer or lesbian romances. I have, read some books. Top of my head, I think about Portrait of a Lady on Fire or Finger
Oh yeah.
Smith or those things, which very different stories, but
Yeah.
ultimately about this idea of self acceptance and
Mm.
stepping out without knowing how things are going to work out. And I just love that in your book, this is somebody who, like you said, is later in life, who has loved ones already in her life, and yet she's making this step based on love because she's expanding the circle of love in her life. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful
Oh,
idea.
that's a lovely way to put it. Think it, yeah, it's so, was it Toni Morrison who said, write the book you want to read, write the book that you want to see in the world. And so the parallel between the main character of Justice's life and my life is that, of course, I did come out later. I think coming out later is like really anytime after 16, like anytime that you're grown up in the world and you're like living your life. And
So you came
um,
out at 18.
mhm.
You came out at 16, 17,
Oh
19.
no, 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 no! I came out at like 32. I feel like anybody who comes out like into their adulthood, it feels like it's coming out late. And so when I did, I really, and I had three children who were at the time, gosh, if I was 32, so they were about 9, 7, and 5. Um, and mm, I looked for books. I looked for stories that talked about it, that talked about, this decision that I had made to live genuinely and to really want to teach my kids, it's important to be who you are and love who you love. Um, but and I feel like that was the right thing to do, but it's also not easy. And especially they're just kids, like, they're in kindergarten. They don't want to talk about like it's important to be genuine and love who you love. No one's more genuine than a kindergartner. Like they're not hiding anything. So I decided just to, and the book isn't exactly like what my experience was. It's kind of different. We get to make stuff up. So I made a whole life for Jess that was a little bit different than mine. But I kind of wanted to put the story out there, not just for women who went through things like me, women and men who come out later, but uh, for families who all live through those kinds of things together.
No, we had a couple people that joined a couple of moments ago.
Oh
And so
yeah.
we're talking in the intro how this is kind of new for both of us. I do a lot of things for Sitting in Silence, but this is the first live interview I've done on Substack. But um, I was interviewed by my friend, Sorry Botten, who has a Substack called Oldster. And on Oldster, what she's done now for maybe 4 years or even more than that, maybe 5 years, is that she interviews people with the idea of talking about aging, the wisdom that we gain with our bodies change, our life experiences with that our personalities change. And she always will ask a question along the lines of, what would you tell yourself at the time of that big life change? Like when you were deciding to come out and you had this family that you love so much, is
Mm.
there advice that the present you would give to that version of yourself that might have been helpful?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I think at the time, one of the crises I was having was like I just wanted to make sure that my kids were going to be okay, and there's never a guarantee. You do the best you can and try to spare them from as much pain as possible. But um, I think I would go back and tell myself that as many struggles as my kids would face, because now they're 20, 26, 24, and 22. Um, this isn't going to be a thing that hurts them. This isn't going to be a thing. This isn't going to be a thing um, that is going to morph them or give them mental illness problems or anything that I was told that might happen that I didn't really believe would. But I think it would have been nice to have that guarantee, like, no, they're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I'm close with all three of my kids. Um, and it would have been nice to have that reassurance. So that's what I would say.
And you said it earlier, and I think it's true. You know, you are always teaching your kids through example.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like having them involved in the experience, they know what it means to pursue authenticity and truth
Mhm.
and not running away from challenges and just being yourself in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Despite what I mean, I think that when I think about how before I came out, it was really, um, I suffered from depression pretty bad. And I think that living ingenuinely will do that. It messes with your head. Like it makes you, um, it just suppresses all these parts of you that don't even have anything to do with sexuality. Um, but it taints everything to know that you're walking through the world and nobody really knows who you are. And I really didn't want to teach them how to live like that.
It's a beautiful gift to give. And, you're saying that. And, I've not had some kind of a coming out journey, but when you say that, I think about the times when I felt saddest in my life. And it was when I was still a practicing corporate lawyer and I was thinking about becoming a writer. And, on the one hand, I think I was very afraid at this transition that I wanted to go through, but I was also afraid of like not being able to write well. Like maybe I make this big leap and
Oh.
I'm just not gonna be very good at it. And
Yeah.
so I'm throwing away something great for something that is not so good. But I realize now in retrospect that you said that whatever sadness I was experiencing at that time, depression, anxiety, was because I was living an inauthentic life.
Yeah.
And nowadays, since I have posted my first book in 2019, sure, there are good days and bad days,
Yeah.
but it's never that same depth of depression. I feel like it's like having money in your pocket. You can always just pull it out when you need it. It's just, I feel so much better about not having to hide a part of myself, not having to,
Yeah.
contort myself in order to fit people's expectations.
It's that
And,
it's
and
exactly it's
yeah.
exactly like that.
And by the way, I should have said earlier, I know your hair is fresh. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
It looks incredible. And we've known each other for years now, but I remember when you told me kind of recently that you had children in their 20s, like their mid to late 20s. And I was so shocked by it because as we led with the intro to the
Uh-huh.
show, you had a birthday yesterday. You're 50 years old,
Mhm.
but clearly something is going wrong here because you look much younger than me. I turned 48 on Saturday. You
Oh,
turned
that's
50 on.
right. We're September buddies.
Yes, we are.
All right.
But you look way like you look more spry. You know,
Oh,
wait.
you look fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
So you're a University of New Orleans person too, just like I am.
I
And
am.
you
Proud
went through the
privateer.
what's that?
Proud privateer.
Proud privateer. I'm a double privateer. I went there for undergrad and grad school.
I did too. We've never talked about this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I should back up and say like the way that we met was so beautiful, but it was also like a compressed time. Like you were telling me that the day we met, um, I think you were teaching out of school, right? Is that correct?
I was so let's see. That was the spring of 2019. I was adjuncting at Delgado. I was adjuncting and tutoring at Delgado, and I was in the grad school program, but I was also the day we met, you came to speak to our class. Barb Johnson had invited you to come talk to us. I think about flash fiction. And I had just finished my comps. So I walked like a zombie from the library
Oh my goodness! For
over to the
people
Walker
that
Larks
don't
building.
know, I'll tell them what comps are. When you're in grad school for writing, the major part of what you do is, develop a book or a manuscript that is a sort of sample of what you're working on when you're in grad school. But one of the other parts of it is comps, which is basically like a written exam, but that deals with like all this sort of esoteric information, and you have to like get ready for it, and it takes time to take it, and so you're just wiped out by the time you're finished.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you go in not feeling like you're smart enough to do it, you have to really pretend. Like you got to pump yourself up. Like, no, I can do this. I need to. Yeah, it's brain draining. So yeah, that. And I asked you. I think I might have put our professor on the spot a little bit because she was always saying that short stories are the best way to like get to know your characters before you put them into a novel. And I actually did that with this book. Um, at the time, that's what I was doing is I was taking the story idea that I had and putting it into short stories. And she was right. In the end, she was absolutely right. Like I got to know those characters so much more in depth and kind of decided what I wanted to do with them. And she really, as a mentor, she really helped me kind of like craft a couple of characters in a way that wasn't working before and worked much better. But when you were up there and had invited us to ask questions, I said, so Barb keeps telling us that the best way to get to know our characters is through short stories. Do you think that's true? And you were like, uh. Yeah. I was asking you to like to possibly disagree with Barb, which would have been uh just craziness. Barb's the best. She always knows what she's doing.
Barb, she always knows what she's doing. Barb Johnson is a wonderful writer and a wonderful educator. She was my thesis director, and
Same.
and she was just what I needed in that program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, when you were writing the short stories featuring these
Mhm.
characters, what's your main character's name again?
Jess, like short for Jessica.
Yes, and who's the lady that she's falling for?
Pam.
So in those earlier stories, was it just Jess or was it Jess and Pam?
Um. Oh no, Pam was definitely part. Do you mean like from points of view?
Well, I guess like were they included both as characters in the short stories who were sort of
Oh
falling
yeah.
for each other?
Yeah, and it was Pam in particular that Barb really helped me shape in a way that worked with Jess. Like, to tell you the truth, like Pam's a lovely person in the book now. In the short stories, I remember the day Barb had me in her office, and she's like, "Why is Jess in love with this person? She's not very nice."
That sounds like Barb.
Like, yeah, she was right. Like, why would Jess want to go for the bad girl who's, in love with her, but not very nice when she's like going through a divorce and has kids and stuff like that? Like, no, no. So Pam had to just be a little bit more. I had to make her somebody that Jess would fall in love with and would want to have around her kids. Made sense.
Mm. You know what's interesting about that is that I'm writing a book right now that it's my next book to come out, and I've been working on it. And it's funny, like stuff, but we need other writers to sort of look at our work and help us figure out what we're doing. And so,
Yes.
in the earlier draft of the book that I'm writing now, the my main character, her name was Doris. Her love interest is this guy named Aubrey. And in the earlier drafts, he was just like really sort of like dark and kind of mean spirited and or kind of like hiding himself. And then he gets worse as it goes on. And my, my editor said, well, um, the same thing. Why would she be with this person? Like, you have to, I don't understand this. And so I
Yeah.
had to go back and make the character real. I had to give
Yeah.
the character, a complete, sort of body, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God for them to point those things out. And I'm sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. He thinks he's protecting the house.
I think he's
Um,
chiming in on the interview.
huh? He
I
just
think
wants to
he's,
be on the interview.
yeah, he's like, and here's my thoughts on writing.
You never asked me what I think about your work. No, I was just telling some students last night, like, I think that having that community is one of the most important things to find a writer, to find that group of people that really helps give you not just the feedback that makes you feel good, but the feedback that you need, like as readers, like good trusted reader.
Hmm.
Just finding that community, finding people is really
How long did the book take to write?
um the first so I wrote in this book with the scene. I think it's part of chapter 3. It's a garage sale. I wrote that scene in 2015. The parking lot uh, during my lunch break at a job that I absolutely fucking like, all. And um, so I wrote that scene, and the characters kind of grew from there. And I actually wrote the book. And then, so when I got to grad school at 2018, I asked Barb if I could work on it more and submit that as my thesis. And she said that she would be happy to be my director. She would be happy to read this story. She said, "You got to turn it into short stories." And, given the reason why that we talked about. So I did. And then, so that was my thesis. And then I took those short stories and put them back into form. So it's lived a few lives before becoming what it is now, where it was one book, then a book of short stories, and then almost a completely different book.
Huh.
What's interesting is that garage sale scene is very similar to what I first wrote.
Um, yeah, I feel like sometimes when we write, like the muse, she visits us and says, "Here, take this, and you're gonna always need this for whatever journey you're going on." And if we're smart, we just use it. But was this the first book you ever wrote?
Mm-mm.
How many
No,
pre-
this was my 7th.
You're 7.
It was just the first one that worked.
I look, I totally get that. Look, I have a theory that I always say. I have never met a published author who doesn't have at least one or multiple books in a drawer somewhere, so to speak. Because
Yeah.
it's a sign of commitment. Because to write a book, it requires a lot of training and a lot of trial and error. We're not AI, so we have to actually work on it and work on it and work on it to make it make sense. And then at some point, we write a draft that feels like it really had legs, and we
Mhm.
decide to stick with that and keep building it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like my first 7 were practice. just learning how to write a book. And I'm sorry if there's a little bit of feedback. I think that's on my end. Or do you hear feedback? I hear a little bit of it. That might be my
Occasionally, it's hard to tell. You know, tech. It's our tech overlords playing with us right now. But I definitely, I have at least, I know I have like one complete book that I never published. I have like several fragment books, like one, I guess it was kind of complete, so maybe it's two. And there's like two or three more like 80-page sprints I wrote. I'm like, I'm not sure I'm gonna go with this. So I have, at least 5 or 6 projects that I just try to take steps on.
So wait, so you're telling me that the unpublished and partial works of Maurice Carlos Ruffin are in a drawer somewhere. You're gonna make that available for people to find when you die, right? Like a Harper Lee situation.
You know, the first one, I shouldn't say where it is, but it's literally like in a not even a shoebox. It's like if you like buy like a big ream, not no pun intended. You buy a big ream of paper and it holds like 500 pages. It's like in one of those boxes. And
Oh yeah,
like every few years I go back to it and look at it. It's like my juvenilia that I wrote. I say juvenilia, but I was probably like in my mid-20s. I don't know. But
yeah. That's cool.
hmm,
How old were you? You were about in your mid-20s.
mid-20s, and I'm proud of it. Like it's a pretty strong book, you know.
Yeah,
I just think that at this point it will be like, I don't know how to describe it. I feel almost icky to try and make it better.
you got new stuff happening in your head.
I got new stuff happening. Totally,
I
totally new
I
stuff.
I have a question for you. I know you have questions, but while we're talking about it, because I just thought of this, what do you think is it like that makes those novels that I wrote and the novel you wrote and the parts of stories that we have going around? What do you think makes those work different from the first one that we got from the one that actually did it to the publishing?
That's a big question. I love questions, so you can ask me whatever you want to ask me.
Okay.
Um, I think that when authors are just starting out, it's a mixture of not having full control of our powers. It's like, imagine like a baby with telekinesis and like things are floating around and they're kind of not in the right place. But there's also like brilliance. There's like, these amazing lines, these amazing characters or dialogue or just concepts that are really, really cool. And then there's also the market itself, which maybe, we try to publish it. The market's like, either we don't do that ever or now it's not the right moment for it. So like, for example, my first unpublished book is basically a superhero novel set in New Orleans.
What?
But I wrote that like 2004, 2006. So it's like before the MCU got, charged up, you know,
Yeah.
and and even there, it's like a very strange book because I designed it to feel very New Orleans, like it's this very diverse cast of characters, black, white, Asian, Latino, Vietnamese, I got some queer characters and straight characters, and I've done all these different things with it. But I feel like even today, people be like, you need to like just pare it down, like cut it back to make it feel more of the moment or something like this. So I don't know. I just think it's a combination of factors,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because I mean, I think a story. I think when the bigger the story is like it does become like a living organ, and it does have its time. It might. I mean, I think we talk now more in Orleans about all the different representations you just mentioned. We got Vietnamese, we got Latino, we have like this huge, fantastic variety of people living in our city. And I don't think we talked about that in the like in the early 2000s. Like that, it just wasn't talked about like it is now.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that we need represented now. Like we all need some superheroes.
I totally agree. And now that I'm thinking about it, what's strange about that book, I mean, it's about 480 pages, and it's a big baby. There's no doubt about that. And but what's really strange about it is that out of that whole book, that whole universe I created, this world that I built, really the only thing that came out of that to other work directly is that in my first novel, We Cast a Shadow, my main character's boss is this lady named Octavia. She's kind of patrician, New Orleans uptowner type lady.
Yeah.
She's a lawyer. But really, I just like cut and pasted that character's personality from my first unpublished book. Like it's the same person.
Yeah. I have done that with characters that I like. Uh, take them out of one story that I didn't really use them in another that I realized that they fit better.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think that, I was talking to a student earlier today, and I was saying there's no wasted effort. I almost feel like the things that have not been published yet, maybe they'll get published someday, and I guess it'll be fine. But I feel like really for me, it was a chance to again train myself.
Yeah.
And it's like the training wheels on my bike. I needed to make that stuff to, not fall and scrape my knee. And I'm forever thankful for that. I think that there's really no shortcuts. We're not computers. And so you need
Yeah.
to stumble a bit and make mistakes and then figure it out.
Well, yeah, because I think that that would be like a professional basketball player saying that all those hours of training were worthless.
Yes, exactly.
Just because it wasn't that one time on the court on live TV.
Exactly.
It's all those other hours that came before it that were just as valuable.
Yeah. And, um, on Sitting in Silence in particular, I often will talk about how important it is to have fun with the stories we're telling as we're writing. And I think that book taught me that. Like, in a lot of ways, I can call it juvenile, even though I was in my mid 20s when I wrote it, because I was very much writing that book like, well, what would have teenage Maurice really loved to have seen? I grew up reading comics, I grew up reading comics and watching like, TV shows and stuff. And so to write the book the way that I wrote it, and like these little wacky in jokes that I would get people that are from that community would understand. Like it was just fun to write. I mean, it was 480 pages, and I'm like trying my best, but I never got bored of it. I never felt like, oh, I've been doing this for too long. It just took 2 years to write, just 2 years, and it's got all the things that I love from that time, like whether it's comics or Stephen King novels or New Orleans lore. Or like French Quarter tours, like all those things are in there, and I just smiled writing it. And when I think about it now, I'm like, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, even the stuff that I write that sometimes has like darker moments. Like the beginning of this book starts with it starts in 1995 where Jess is a 15-year-old girl at her grandmother's deathbed. That's not necessarily fun to write, but the parts of it that make it fun for me, I guess that like really lights me up is when characters interact, when there's good dialogue, like
Mm,
those kind of things where I can see them really talking to each other. Um,
mm,
those are the kind of things that I start to really have fun with it.
mm.
Yeah.
I totally agree. When I'm teaching, I often will tell my students, look, if you're gonna write like a gory horror book, then you need to like the light and like how gory this horror is. So you got to go all the way in. You want
Hmm.
people to be shocked when they read this thing. And likewise, like you know, if we were each assigned, I mean, you've already written the scene, obviously, but if somebody both assigned us, hey, write a young person talking to an elder who is, passing on. Like, there's your way of doing it. I can see like my way of doing it would be like the grandmother's in the bed is like, oh, uh, please don't forget me after I'm gone. And then the young person's like, Grandma, you don't even talk like that. And she's like, yeah, you're right, man. I was just playing. And y'all think I've lost my mind, but I'm still in here, that kind of thing. And that's the fun. It's like just being true to yourself and allowing the work to shine as it's going to shine. And it's just, I see writers struggling now. I just always tell them, just find a way to make it more fun for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That helps keep that. It helps keep you going
Hmm.
because if it's not making you happy, this this job in itself and the amount of work that you put in, it's too hard to do it and not enjoy it. I think like there's got to be some play involved that's fun. And I also think that what you just said, what you said about student, is also a great way for writers to discover their own voice, to develop. We always tell them, like, find your voice, find the thing that when someone reads your writing, they go, "Oh, I know this story," without even having to look at the name.
100%, 100%. I love to read writers and just know, oh yeah, only Genevieve could have written something like this. I mean, absolutely, this is 100% Genevieve. So I got a couple more questions for you,
Okay.
and what I really want you to tell us about is how did it feel, like in the middle to the end process of writing the book? Like how are you feeling putting together the story, revising it, editing it, taking notes? How did that feel for you?
During which time that I wrote it.
Okay, how about this one? How about this?
How about
Was there a moment where you felt like a light bulb went up, like, oh wait, I can really use this to make the book more like what I wanted to?
I remember, because I don't know about you, middles are hard for me. Like, because the beginning, you start off all powerful, you have all this momentum. The end, there's also a bit of I don't know if it's momentum, but it just feels like it's I'm a writer, I'm supposed to have good words, but a big feeling. Like, there's a big feeling at the end. The middle, like, all right, I know how it started. I kind of know where I'm going. What do I do in the meantime? Do I just put my characters in a room, have a drink coffee, and say like, all right, or climax, I guess. Um, I was at a writing retreat through Third Intern Lit, and do you know that's a really cool writing group? And, um, and I was stuck in the middle of one of my edits. Actually, Ian Hensel had agreed to publish the book. He just was suggesting some changes to the middle, actually.
Mm.
And I was stuck, and uh, somebody suggested, like, if you're going forward, getting stuck sideways. Like, don't keep like hitting your head against that wall. Just go in a different direction. Make your characters do something else. And I had forgotten that that's part of that play that I love. I don't have to just keep moving forward. Like, like when you're trying to write a paper in school and you just have to like keep moving forward and keep trying to make the next paragraph work with the previous paragraph and just trying to get in there. And for this, like, I think her suggesting that made me remember how much how much you can just kind of like, if you're shaping something, like, imagine it was out of clay and it's not looking right, you can roll it into the ball and start again
Mm.
and kind of change the direction. And every time I do that, I don't know if what I'm saying that, but like, I have taken her advice and she suggested that. So now every time I'm writing a short story, I get stuck. I never seen that it, and I will play with it in ridiculous ways. I'll make my characters go dancing. I'll make them bake cookies together. Like, just anything that to do something else. And I would say 100% of the time, if I keep writing long enough in that ridiculous fashion, I find my way back to where I wanted to be to get to that next scene, that ending. Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes 100% sense. I think you should like write a craft essay, maybe put it on your maybe. Look, I have experienced that myself, and the way I think of it is like, we know we're New Orleans people or whatever, so it's like jazz music, like improvisation. So
Yeah.
at a certain point, if you feel like you're stuck, to just try anything and see what happens. And I know that in my novels in particular, there's often like a sort of midpoint where I'm like, okay, this middle is getting a little draggy, a little bored. So let's shake it up. And so I may remove a character or add a character or change locations or whatever thing I kept thinking. Oh, I gotta say it like to the end of the book because it's so exciting. Like, no, I'll do it right now and see what happens. And that usually opens up a lot of possibilities for the second half of the book. And the possibility that the middle of the book is no longer boring, it's like, holy crap, I can't believe he did that. It's
Yeah.
like soap opera or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it can take you into a direction that you never even imagined, and it works. And um, I think that I don't know if you suffer from, but sometimes I suffer from this idea as if I'm while I'm typing or writing on paper, as if I'm etching it in stone. Like I can't go back and erase something, and like it has to be perfect. And it's
Mm,
sort of like perfectionism
mm.
that tripped me up.
Yeah, the book I'm writing right now, I mean, it sounds insane to say it, but I think I have cut hundreds of pages. Like, I'm not sure how many pages I had, like at the maximum, but I've cut like decades of time out of it. I've cut entire characters and subplots out of it, and yet it only gets better. I feel like
Mm.
you can always be working to make our work better. And on that note, I want to ask you. So, I know you're not done as an author. So, what do you think about for the future?
So I do have a book of short stories that I'm putting together that I'm gonna my to my editor. I also have another a second book that I've started uh while I was trying to get this one published. So I kind of stopped working on it once Ian accepted it, and then I was just doing the revisions that he asked me. Um, like a shameless person. Like I guess I'll do whatever you want. Thank you so much for taking me. Um, so I would like to get back to it. But uh it's something a little different than I've ever done before. It's a historical novel based in Sparta about pacifists. So I guess I figured, okay, what do you know about Sparta? Yes! Somebody had to be like, seriously? We have to fight all this much? Like, there had to have been somebody who thought it was ridiculous. So, and also there's very little known about that time. Um, so I'm writing from the point of view of women in ancient Sparta. And I'm trying to do as much research as I can, but honestly, like it's hard to find. It's hard to find anything other than things that one thing that keeps coming up over and over is that mothers, their sons, you come home with your shield on it. Like you're gonna fight in this war, and if you leave war, it better be because you're dead, not because you're like. There had to be a mama, Maurice, that was like, "Oh hell no, you're not gonna take my baby.
Mm,
He's coming home and in one piece."
mm.
So this is something I'm playing with, and so far it's a lot of fun.
I think you have a future bestseller in your hands. That sounds fantastic. That sounds. I mean, I
Pacifist in
want to read
Sparta.
that book too. Wow.
Thank you.
Well, um, I want to thank you for your time, and I definitely want to thank everybody who tuned in today to the first live episode of Sitting in Silence interview. We've been here today with the great and fantastic Genevieve Rheams, my wonderful friend, who has a book out just yesterday called "We Will Plant Birds of Paradise." Where can they find the book?
So they can find it all on place. They can all find on my website. It's Genevieve Rheams. Um, they can also so it's not at like Barnes and Noble. Because I'm procrastinate. They can't stuck up big bookseller downtown. Definitely like the local bookseller, um, Cypress Books, and here in the New Orleans, Blue Cypress Books, and that one, the other one.
There's quite a few of them. Let's see, Octavia.
Octavia, thank you so much. It's
Yeah, yeah,
a book.
yeah.
And also, you want a copy? Hit me up. I'd be happy to send.
Of course, I would love one. Okay, well,
Oh,
I
you
want to
and then
absolutely.
yeah, you definitely get to get a copy.
I want to say thanks again for being here. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of you. I know you were going to get it done. And everybody who has heard today's episode, be sure to get a copy of Genevieve's book. Go to the website, go to local New Orleans bookstores, And if you like today's episode, like, rate, review, comment, share, spread the wealth. And on that note, we end our first episode. Thank you so much, Genevieve, and you take care.